With Cardano dropping over 50% since August, what is next for ADA? In this video, we're going to dive down into the technical analysis and give you a bit of an update as to what is going on with the charts. As we get into it, if you find it useful and informative, hit that like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe? Tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with all that said, done, and out of the way, let's jump on down into the charts and take a look at what's going on with Cardano. Okay guys, so we're going to start off with the weekly chart. This is a really important chart to look at because ultimately, if we get too focused in on the smaller time frames, you kind of lose track of the bigger picture, right? And it's important that we acknowledge that there's some important things going on here with our weekly chart, okay? So the first thing we need to acknowledge is that we are following Elliott wave, okay? And this is basically a 5 impulsive move. Wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you're familiar with the channel, you'll be familiar with this. If you're new here, basically this is the trend of the bull run. Okay, and pretty much most altcoins are following this pattern. There are some exceptions that are not following it, but for the most part, there's 5 big impulsive moves to the upside. And this is basically all the way back from March 2020 when the bull run kind of started. Bitcoin actually started a little bit earlier, back in 2019. But ultimately, what we end up here with is impulsive wave 1, which takes us to August 2020, pull back towards the end of 2020, good spike to the beginning of the year 2021, and this was about March, May time, basically pulling back when Bitcoin was at 65k down to 28k, and then we were supposed to go up nicely into wave 5, okay, and then there's a bit of a smear campaign and various different things kind of going on, expectations of people's expectations not really met when it comes to Cardano and understanding how long things actually take to kind of come to fruition. That being said, we can obviously see quite a big deviation from the trend, okay, and that's what's really important about this weekly chart, right? We can see that we were tracking nicely with wave 1, very nice neat line, okay, to the upside, nice pullback with wave 2, nothing unexpected there, nice kind of trend to the upside with wave 3, again as expected, wave 4 as expected, started nicely with wave 5 in August 2021, and then obviously September pullback, which we kind of understand. September pullback, right, is always a month of pullbacks because we make it happen, self-fulfilling prophecy. And then obviously the deviation around here after September. Now this is not really what you want to see, but there is some positives here that we need to acknowledge, specifically on this larger time frame, okay, and that is that this is actually an AB, let's say we follow waves, right, and ultimately what we're looking at here is this a pullback for B and a C wave to come, okay, so we know that all-time highs are going to be coming, certain higher than wave A, okay, so we know that that's something that is going to happen, but it's going to take time. And taking a look at the length of time of this B wave, we potentially are going to be talking way into at least Q1 of 2022 before we start to see a significant rise. Now, what we'd ideally like to see is a shift and a change with this ABC, right? We'd like this actually turn impulsive, right? And if that turns impulsive, then actually I think we're going to end up with a much bigger trend overall, or a new trend forming, which is ultimately what I see here. Okay, so there was this kind of expectation of the current trends from wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, that was indicating $11.13. Okay, that's kind of the trend-based fib. Now, that I think is no longer really in vision. I think there's a trend change that basically changes the scope of this 5th wave to the upside. We are still doing 5 waves to the upside, I believe. This deviation hasn't invalidated that. We haven't gone lower than wave 4, for example, and we have, of course, gone higher than wave 3, so we can confirm that it is wave 5. But what we're looking for here is basically that impulsive move. This could actually lead us to going from a wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3, a wave 4, and a wave 5 higher. Okay, this could be really big for Cardano if this comes in. Obviously, for that to happen, we'd obviously have to make sure and acknowledge that our A, B, C turns impulsive. Okay, and there's no guarantee of that until the time comes. Okay, so we'll be monitoring that C wave up to see whether or not that turns impulsive, and the 1.382 is the area that we're monitoring on that one. Okay, so that's a part of our weekly chart. We really wanted to kind of give you that kind of overview because it's important that we don't just focus in on the hourly view and really focus in on those micro movements when the bigger picture is always there, right? Big deviation to trend. Okay, so trend is looking different, and if this turns impulsive, we could be looking significantly higher, $25 plus, potentially on the horizon here for Cardano, under that new impulsive trend that could be forming. If we don't see the impulsive, then we are still looking conservative. I would say we'll be looking, interestingly, at these areas of about 722, which is our conservative model. Again, we are still expecting all-time highs. Right, and so on that note, I'm not going to go into the daily. I'm going to jump down right into that hourly view, okay, because this is where you kind of see the here, the now, what's kind of going on. And there's a couple of things here that I think are important that we acknowledge as well, right? So there was a downward trend in line with Bitcoin. And this was actually impulsive, right? We were trying to make sure it wasn't. But ultimately, I think we can confirm that actually what we had here was, in fact, an impulsive move down. Okay, and we can count the waves however we want. Lots of different ways to do it. But basically, there's a bunch of ABCs kind of resetting themselves, pushing themselves down. And ultimately we ended up right the way down here. This is pretty much a very similar pattern that you saw with Bitcoin. So to see ADA do something very similar is understandable. And again, here we are potentially tracking a much bigger ABC move back to the upside. We are still expecting a pullback with our B wave though. So do expect some volatility before we get that C wave to come in. Now, when we measure this out, we can say that our A wave high is there and our B low is here. We'll put that there for now, and we can kind of see this C wave moving out to 176. And again, in a very similar way, this could turn impulsive, and we're going to see that impulsive move already once we found this bottom zone. And that would basically allow us to say that's 1, that's 2. If we move past 184.7, that becomes 3, pull back for 4, and up for 5, right? An impulsive move up in the same way that we had this impulsive move down. Okay, no guarantee of that, but we are waiting to see wave B come in. If wave B has bottomed, which I don't think it has yet, we are still quite high on our stochastic. Do expect some kind of downward trend today on Cardano, and then obviously pull back to the upside. Now, outside of Elliott wave, you can obviously take a look at this in some descending triangles if you want, depending on what kind of analysis you kind of prefer. I don't tend to like trend lines too much. They're so easy to invalidate. But you can kind of see here there's a downward trend line. And again, you'd look for good support lines as well. Okay, so again, you can kind of see that inside here, there's a really good, strong support line just here. Okay, this basically forms our descending triangle. Okay, so from this, you'd ultimately look for a break to the upside, depending on which trend is going to be stronger. If your downward trend is stronger than your upward trend, then obviously you have to take that into consideration. The sentiment for Cardano, though, is quite negative at the moment, so we are waiting for that to switch. So if it doesn't switch in time, you could see that downtrend, okay? And then if you lose support, then obviously I think there's going to be a majority of people, I'll say a majority, but there's going to be a serious number of people probably shorting the market at that point if they lose that support line. Ultimately, though, if the support holds, we should be looking for a good traction to the upside on that descending triangle. But as I said before, this is actually just a part of what I follow, which is Elliott wave, following in on that anyway. So the higher probability here, in my opinion, is that the descending triangle, if that's what you want to follow, is actually going to hold up quite nicely, and we are going to get that break to the upside. Okay, so we'll end up with that break to the upside. We are expecting a downward trend, as I said. Wave B may not have actually come into the bottom. It may have bottomed out over here, but we still need to trade sideways before we can get that break. Once we get that break from that descending triangle, we should look for a good push to the upside to complete wave C. Now, obviously, if we push higher than that area of 184.7 with C, that becomes impulsive. Okay, our actual target for a C wave would come in at 176. Okay, so we can see that kind of traction moving nicely to the upside. Okay, so for Cardano, I think there's there's a lot kind of going on here. There's lots of trend lines that you can draw on here. There's lots of waves that you can draw on here. I'm trying to keep it as top level as I can without kind of counting all the micro movements that you can kind of see within the charts. But ultimately, we are looking pretty good for some kind of traction to the upside in line with Bitcoin. If we actually just jump over to Bitcoin here, you can see how we had a very, very similar, impulsive move down, inverse head and shoulders on Bitcoin, looking for that traction to the upside, trying to take out some of these key areas. 61k is our C wave target. If it goes to 63,200, then it's impulsive, right? And so Cardano is very much similar, following the same kind of patterns that you see time and time again. We are waiting to see what happens next, but ultimately my expectation is a nice spike to the upside with ADA, and that will take us into some reasonable areas. We'd like it to go impulsive, get back inside that 618.702.786 area on that journey up towards new all-time highs. As I said, I am expecting new all-time highs, but this is not a gambling market. This isn't something that's going to happen instantly or quickly. There's no instant gratification to be had here. This is an investment market. Do expect swings in the market, do expect profit to be taken off the table, and do expect there to be lots of trading activity. Ultimately though, if you can see all the patterns in the data and you have a good strong mindset, you'll be able to hodl your way through without any issues, or dollar cost average better positions, maybe even take advantage of some of the opportunities that are inside some of these wave counts as well. Guys, I am going to leave that video there. Just a nice quick update on what is going on with Cardano. If you have found this useful and informative, hit that like button. Really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap that bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With that said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.